Yeah, g'day guys, Steve here from Dirt Bike ADV. Sunday afternoon out in the shed again, bit of rain around, so nothing better to do than just sit out in the shed and make videos, hey? This is part 4 of a 5 video series about buying a budget lightweight ADV bike. So we've done 3 videos already. The first one was about the bike options, what bike are going to make good budget lightweight ADV bikes. The second video was about buying the bike and what to look for buying second-hand bike. Obviously we're in the budget end of the market, so we're buying second-hand. The third video was about what tools you should expect to have, so you can do your minor maintenance items on the bike, like changing the oil, checking the air filter and cleaning air filters, chain maintenance, brakes and disc pads and that sort of stuff. All those sort of stuff that you can do yourself. We also talked about in that video about what you probably shouldn't do yourself, which is basically mainly to do with the engine. Today's video is going to be about preparing the bike, so what to look for before you go on a trip. So the 5 key essential items that I always do, which are, check the oil, check the air filter, check the chain and sprockets, check all the bearings, spokes, and the last thing I generally do, that goes without saying, is check your air pressures. So that's the sort of things that I do before a trip, so we're going to talk about those in a minute. Then we're going to go on to what tools I'm going to take on my bike with me and how I'm going to carry the tools. Then we'll go on to we'll cover off very quickly things like the camping gear you should be looking at either having or buying, and then just what you should be wearing on you as you go out on the adventure bike. Particularly for people who haven't done much adventure riding or motorbike riding before, just what sort of boots and pants and jackets and helmets and that sort of stuff you should be wearing. And from there, the next video, of course, is going to be we take the bikes out and we go for our first ride on the budget lightweight ADV TT350. Anyway, let's get into it. We'll talk tools first, then we'll do preparation of the bike and keep going from there. Righto, so this is the toolkit I've got on the back of the Yamaha. It was pretty well thrown together pretty quickly, but just to get me out of trouble so I can go do a quick ride. Always want to have cable ties on your bike. I usually take a couple of different sizes, some big ones and some littler ones. 21-inch tube, really important to have a spare tube. Even if you want to take a repair kit, you should still take a tube in case you have a tear in a tube that you can't repair. Always take a 21, you can use that in the front, the 21-inch tube. You can also, at a pinch, use it in the rear as well to get you home. It's certainly not going to ride 2,000 k's with a 21-inch tube and an 18-inch rear tyre, but it'll get you home. That's the big thing. Everyone just carries a 21-inch front. Little basic toolkit, some nitrate gloves and a basic toolkit. So I've just got this wrapped up in a rag. It's just real basic little setup. Probably fix most things. Obviously we've talked about the spanner that I found that suited my rear and front axles, so that was really good. The 3 key spanners I have here are again to suit the bike. I've looked around the bike and gone, I need a 13, I need a 10 and I need an 8. So ringy spanners are good, open-enders, ringies. You can get into a lot of tight spots with those. Whatever you can't get to, an adjustable wrench is really handy as well too, so that fixes everything else. A little set of vice grips, really good for putting chain links on, but also too, if you lose your bloody gear change lever or something like that, you can lock it onto there and just sort of reach down and change your gears. Great for grabbing cables. If you snap a cable, you can use these to pull on cables and that sort of stuff. And I generally always carry a spare spark plug wherever I go on motorbikes. It's something, if it goes, it's unrepairable, you're done if you've got no spark plug. So I always carry a spare that's just wrapped up in a bit of duct tape in the box, so yeah. And this is just a little socket set that I got years ago from Toledo 7, one of those cheaper brands like 24MX. I've got a couple of little fittings in there, so I've got a couple of different hex sizes, a Phillips head and a flathead. And of course I've got a socket set here with an 8, 10, a 12 and a 13, I think they are. These things got a little 1/4-inch drive on the end, so you can use these as a screwdriver, or you can use these as a as a spanner with the sockets on it. So yeah, that's just a cheap little set, and it just allows me to chuck a few different options in there. And I've just chucked a few fuses in amongst that little bag too. It's a little spot that keeps the fuses together. So all this is just sort of wrapped up in a rag, so a real simple little tool roll scenario. You might wrap it up in this rag and then put it in a like a little dry bag or something like that, or you might just tie it all up and tape it all up and put it in your backpack like that. So that's the toolkits on the back of the bike of the 350, because that's just a little tool bag that hangs on the mudguard. But you still need to carry these. So I set a set of tie levers, a little pump, always just hanging out in my backpack. They're with me all the time. So yeah, in this case, on a lightweight bike like the TT350, you know, you're not going to necessarily try and tie these onto the bike. You're probably just going to carry these in your backpack. With the lighter end of the market, you're generally always carrying a backpack, because you don't want to load your bike up in the rear subframe of your bike too much with too much luggage. So you carry your backpack. And of course, I'll chuck in a multi-tool like a Leatherman or something along those lines in my backpack with me all the time. That's just so handy. Sometimes you can do what you need to do with this rather than getting your tools out. And a little bit of duct tape or some gaffer tape, as they call it. So that's the basic toolkit that I would carry as a minimum on any motorbike. A lightweight, budget-friendly ADV bike like we've got now. Or, you know, if I'm going on bigger rides, I would probably take a few other things. So yeah, that's basically it. Now, when it comes to carrying it all and keeping it all organised, there's lots of options, but obviously you can go with the rag method. Just simply wrap things up with rags and cable tie them, or tape them together, do whatever you want to do. But eventually they'll fall out, but it just stops things rattling. We do want to wrap them up and have them all tied together so they don't rattle too much. But of course, you've got your tool roll option. So these are a couple of old ones that I've had. The older Chirby's one, you can see this has done a fair bit of work, but not expensive at all, and just helps to keep your tools organised. These Chirby's ones are really good. I've moved on from these and got a different brand now, but you can put your tie levers and your pumps in and everything in these, so these are really good. And normally in this situation, on a little bike like the 350, I would just put this Chirby's tool roll in my backpack. Maybe the tube would be separate, but all the tools and levers and pumps and everything would be just floating around in my backpack and ready for action if you never need it. So that's a good cheap one. This is the one that came with my Klim backpack. Again, pretty good. This one straps onto the waist belt, so you can take the waist belt off the Klim backpack if you want, and just have a tool roll on there, like a tool belt, so to speak. So that's another option there. Of course, you can use your tool rolls that you got your set of spanners with, or you might be a set of screwdrivers. You have little basic tool rolls like that you bought from the hardware store. This is the one I'm going to use for the 350. So this is an old Enduristan one that I had for the AJP PR7. I've gone to a different system now. So this is one I had left over in the shed. So I'm going to use this one with the 350. I'll put all those tools into there. I will keep the tie levers and the pump separate, but I'll put everything else in there, and I'll probably chuck in a few extra tools for an overnighter, just because I've got a little bit more room. So yeah, that's the one I'm going to use for the 350. So the first thing we should check is the air filter. Now, it's got a nice new filter and it's got plenty of oil in it there. I'm just trying to shine a bit of light in there. You can see the blue colour. You can see a little bit of darkness up on the right hand side there. Tiny little bit of darkness. That's fine. It's got plenty of life left in that filter. Critical though that we have clean air going into the motorbike, otherwise we're in all sorts of trouble. Make sure that filter is bedded down on the lip all the way around. Some people like to put grease around the lip. I don't bother, but just make sure it's all bedded down nice and tight. But that air filter is in good condition and is good for another couple of rides, I would say. So yeah, all good there. I've gone one step further than just checking the oil. I've actually changed the oil. I don't feel comfortable riding a new bike until I've sort of changed the oil. So yeah, we just put new oil filter and change the oil. But the sight glass is actually a bit dirty, so I wasn't really confident on how much oil it had in it. But it did have plenty of oil, so that's good. But now it's got fresh oil and fresh filter, so that's the oil done. So yeah, progress. So to check the chain, get the bike upright. I like to put it in gear and try and reverse it up. As you reverse it up, you'll see the top of the chain tighten. So we know everything around here from that front cog to that back cog is tight. So then you get a good indicator of your chain slack. Now I've made it put a recent new chain on here, and so we've had a fair bit of stretching. that's probably a little bit too slack, and I sort of thought that because it was fairly well rattling. No more than 45, but it's not too bad. These older bikes do have a lot of chain slap and slack, but yeah, I'll just nip that up, axle nuts off, and just give it the adjusters a couple of notches, and I think we should be right. But yeah, 45mm is a lot of chain slack, but yeah, that's probably well over that. Yeah, so anyway. One notch. That's one notch on both sides. Yeah, that's actually enough. I will actually clean this chain now as well too. It's a fairly new chain, but he's used some pretty adhesive sort of gunk on it, so I'm intending to take the bike out and give it a good clean in a minute, but I'll do the chain as part of that. But certainly the sprockets are in good condition, so yeah, happy with that. So we've done the air filter, the oil filter, check the chain and sprockets. We'll go around and give the spokes a bit of a rattle and see how we go with those. Simple case of checking the spokes like that. Now I've already done this because I've had the wheels off, so don't really need to do that. And I've also checked the wheel bearings, but if you were checking wheel bearings, obviously you just give the bike a bit of a rattle here and try and get some movement. If there's movement there, there's a bit of a rattling, then you've got wheel bearing problems or swing arm bearings. And I'll do the same to the head stem and the front wheel. Just give them a bit of a wiggle and check them, because once your bearings are gone, if you're out in the track, you got to stop where you are. That's it, you're done, you're going home, so to speak. So bearings are fairly critical. So I quite regularly check for bearing wear, and also when I do my wheels, I replace them probably every third tyre anyway. But yes, that's all good. I think we'll probably just double check our tyre pressures and we're all but done. So, camping gear. I'll try and keep this brief. Talked about tools for a fair while, but basically I'm assuming on a budget lightweight ADV bike that we're going camping. That's certainly what I aim to do on these bikes, just get out into the bush and get down some back tracks and do a bit of camping. So these are the things as a minimum you're going to need to take with you. These are just cheap Kmart lunch bags or lunch boxes. Absolutely brilliant, love them, got heaps of them. When I go for an overnighter, I'll just take this setup, a little bit of food in my backpack, and I'll use the sandwich bag as well in my backpack. So I might have some fresh meat in there and some cheese and bickies and whatnot, maybe even a couple of beers. But this is just typically how I set it up. So I boil my cups of tea or coffee straight on the top of the stove. That's my little stove there. That just goes on the gas cylinder. So really straightforward little sort of stove, absolutely compact. So that'll boil that. And I've got a jet boil frying pan, which is specifically designed to go on smaller stoves. So it's got a tapered base. So, you know, if you want to cook some steak in here, or you want to do some noodles, or yeah, generally I'm only doing one pot dishes. So yeah, the frying pan I find the most versatile. I can make me cups of tea and coffee and that. You can put that in there as well too, and just put your stove in on top if you want. But yeah, I just tend to throw my condiments bag. So that's got my cutlery in there, salt, pepper, tea bags, all sorts of stuff, all in Ziploc bags. So I've got coffee in there, as I say, and tea and sugar and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so that's just my way of doing it. But something to cook with, something to cook on, that all just goes into there. Nice and quick and simple. That's my cooking setup, all done and dusted. Now, you need somewhere to sleep, don't you? First things first, we're going to need a tent. You don't need to spend big money. This is called an Austrail Outer Limits tent. Well, it's an Outer Limits Starlight. Local Australian brand, Austrail, and they are a cheaper brand. But this tent has served me so well, it's unreal. It's bloody been fantastic. I've slept in some quite wild nights and it's kept me dry. Yeah, and it's not an expensive tent. It's probably about $120 tent, so you don't need to spend up big. It compresses down pretty tight. I haven't got it compressed down properly, but that's a nice little one-man tent. That's all you can really afford to carry on an adventure bike, a lightweight adventure bike. You can't carry big luxurious tents. But that does the job fine. Obviously, with a tent, you're going to need something to sleep on. So we have the mattress. Now, this is my big mattress. I'm getting a bit older, so I like the bigger, thicker mattresses, but you can get one about probably 2/3 the size of this, a little bit shorter and a little bit skinnier. This brand is the Mountain Designs. Again, Australian brand. Mountain Designs started out as an expedition style company that were building really high quality gear with a lot of research and development. They've since been bought out by a corporation, but the gear is still good. So they're still manufacturing. They don't do any research and development anymore, but certainly they're still manufacturing very good bang for buck gear. This is the Airlight 9, so that's really good value. And as I say, you'd normally have a smaller one on a lightweight adventure bike, but yeah, that's one piece of luxury I need. Sleeping bag, of course. This is the synthetic one. I bought this one up in Broken Hill after I watched my $350 down sleeping bag disappear into the back wheel of the AJP because of the stupid Moscow Moto setup. So this is the worst case scenario. This is a synthetic sleeping bag, pretty cheap, fairly big though, fairly big and bulky. So not ideal on a lightweight adventure bike. But if you get the down sleeping bags, if you can afford the down sleeping bags, they'll obviously compress a lot more and be probably half the size to 2/3 of the size of this. So this is just a cheap Kmart. I've kept it for the odd occasion where I might be car camping or something. It's fine for that. But I've got my nice down sleeping bags that I'll use on the 350 when we go. So yeah, a little bit of luxury. So that's basic sort of setup, but if you want a little bit of luxury, of course, you can get a nice pillow. This is a Cedar Summit. I think they call it an Eros. Yes, it is an Eros premium large pillow. Again, I'm getting a bit older, so I need my little luxuries. So that's quite a big pillow. With that thicker mattress, I sleep very well. But again, if you're a young fella, you shouldn't need to take that. Another luxury item is a folding chair, a Helinox style chair. Again, MacPack is very similar to Mountain Designs, been bought out by a corporation. Were originally an expedition company that have been bought out, but still reasonably good quality gear. They're not doing the research and development anymore, but still reasonably good quality gear, but very good bang for buck. But again, that's a luxury item. I probably won't take this on my lightweight adventure bike. It's a big sort of unit, and it really does take up a bit of space, and it's not something that I'd probably take on these sorts of trips. Now, we've got to transport all this, so we'll have a talk about luggage in a minute, but one of the things that I'm a great believer in is dry bags. I don't always have dry bags for everything, but these Kmart dry bags, I bought this sleeping bag and dry bag together, are absolutely brilliant. So I bought these from Kmart in Broken Hill. Yeah, like I say, I've got heaps of these. There's multiple sizes. They're sort of colour coded, but very good value for keeping stuff dry. So when it comes to luggage, I'm a great believer in keep it simple, stupid. I find, when you first start, that just a duffel bag like this draped across the rear guard with a bungee cord just tied like that, a couple of zigzags, pack your tent in down the bottom, pack some firm things down the bottom, sleeping bags, and just a bit of your clothes on top and that sort of stuff, and that will remain fairly firm. Between that and a backpack, and again, you don't have to use the branded backpack, but you want your food and some personal items in the backpack. Between that and that, you should be right. If needs be, tie your tent on top if you can't fit it in there. But most people have got some sort of duffel bag sitting at home, and they work just fine. You just sort of make sure, there's one of the key rules of tying down a motorbike, everything has to be stretchy. Otherwise it all settles and your straps, so don't use cam buckle tie downs or ratchet tie downs. Everything has to be stretchy. So you go to your local Home Depot or your Kmart or your Bunnings here in Australia, and you'll get those very cheaply, and just a duffel bag out of the wardrobe and you're pretty right to go. I've got the luxury. This is my lightweight setup. This is a saddle setup. So This works perfectly. Is going to work perfectly on the 350. This is a Wolfman E-base. This is the smaller base, and again, I'm just using these stretchy rock straps to tie my sleeping bag and tent on here. The beauty of these, of course, is that they have tie-down points for your tent and sleeping bag. So you can put I put my sleeping mattress in there, cooking gear in one side, sleeping mattress in the other, bottle of water, bottle of fuel, or 2 bottles of water in there, and my tent and my sleeping bag go on top here and just tie down to this buckle system. So I've got that luxury. So yeah, but if you don't want to spend this money, keep an eye at second hand. You might pick up one second hand, but if you don't want to spend this money, the duffel bag combined with the backpack is just fine for your luggage setup. Of course, I've got the tank bag as well too, which is my Moscow tank bag. That's a really nice tank bag. So yeah, righto, keeping moving, trying to make those videos reasonably short. We're going to talk about riding gear now. What sort of riding gear you should be wearing as a minimum when you're out on an adventure bike. Righto, so just keeping moving along pretty quickly here. Great believer in personal protection is totally up to you. But here's my recommended minimum that you should be wearing when you're riding a motorbike. These are motorcycle jeans, so they've got patches on your hips and on your knees and on your backside that are Kevlar reinforced. They're a dry rider brand. They're not expensive. I wear those whenever I'm on the motorbike, just to if I do come off and I'm sliding down the road, I've got some abrasion resistance, and that's really what it's about. If you run into a truck, doesn't matter what you're wearing, you're going to break bones, you're going to be a mess. But for me, it's about the abrasion, about sliding down the road, wearing a pair of jeans as opposed to wearing a pair of shorts. You're going to end up with a lot more skin on your body, not spread down the road. So jeans as a minimum. I generally wear gloves. We tend to put our hands out in front of us, and so you can see I've worn those gloves out a little bit. But just gloves with a little bit of reinforcing I like, just because you bang into a tree, you catch a tree on there, you go down with the hand on the handlebars. Just a little bit of knuckle protection, a little bit of palm protection. Don't have to be super heavy, but again, our natural instinct is always to put our hands out in front, and sometimes we're sliding down the road with our hands on the road. Again, this is just going to stop that abrasive treatment of the hands and keep the skin on your hands intact. When it comes to the upper body, I always wear a big heavy jacket. This is probably the one thing that I'm adamant about. There is a lot of people that will say, oh, that's not CCE approved armour, that's just a plastic pad. When it comes to sliding down the road, I'll take anything I can get. This particular jacket has got CC approved armour. I think it's called CCE. This is again a dry rider, very good bang for buck. But I've just got it for me. I've got elbow protection, I've got shoulder protection. I go down, I always put my shoulder out, I always tuck and roll, and I want to be sliding down the road on my shoulder, on my elbow, on the side of my legs. So for me, I always wear a big heavy jacket. I don't care how hot it is. These ones have got vents in them and everything, so they're not too bad. Once you're moving, it's fine. But I always wear a big heavy jacket. I want my arms and my shoulders protected. As I say, there's big padding up in here and on the elbows, so I can tuck and roll, and that saves me from losing my skin in the case of a slide down the road. So yeah. Now, footwear is very subjective. Under no circumstances, absolutely no circumstances, wear elastic-sided boots on a motorbike. The first thing they'll come off, you've only got to get a little bit sideways and these things start flicking off. They're absolutely useless. No ankle bone protection, so don't ever wear these. I'm going to put mine back on now. They're only shed boots. Don't ever wear them on a motorbike. Totally up to you. A lot of guys are wearing safety boots. Don't have an issue with that. The only issue with safety boots is the steel caps, and sometimes if you hit something really hard, it can fold back on your toe, and the steel cap can cut your toes off or damage your toes. I have had a friend where that's happened too. So I prefer not to wear steel cap boots. They're better than nothing. The critical thing here is your ankles. The sides of your ankles when you're sliding down the road, that's a contact point. So you've got to have ankle protection, absolute minimum ankle protection. I choose these because I can still hike and walk in these, and I don't look like a total dickhead trying to walk up a mountain in a pair of motocross boots. So yeah, these are the former Adventure lows. They're absolutely brilliant. They're just so comfortable, nice and wide. It just, yeah, I can wear them all day. And yeah, I just absolutely love them. You can see I've trashed the undersoles. They do actually say that in the warranty that they're not designed for aggressive motocross style foot pegs. So that's, but yeah, these are pretty old now. So I'm certainly not complaining. They've given me good 3 years of service, those. Of course, if you really want good protection, you'll use these. Motocross boots. These are the Gay Erns. These are one of the wider versions on the market. Brilliant boot. The Fox boots. All the boots are good. But totally up to you. I'm not going to tell you what level of protection you should go to. A lot of people say these are the minimum you should wear. Personally, I rode the Tenerife for a year up on the east coast of Australia wearing a pair of hiking boots which were very similar to these, but not as rugged as these, and yeah, had no problems. But if you want to wear the motocross boots, by all means you go for it. Me personally, I like these ones, but it's a personal choice. And yeah, talk to your friends and see what they say. So that's the minimum: pants, jacket, gloves, and some really sturdy boots as a minimum, you know. But you know, motorcycling is a dangerous sport, so focus on what you're doing and hopefully you don't come off. Righto guys, I'm going to hold the camera for this one. Obviously we're talking about helmets. I got 3 options. All of these are my helmets. We got a Fly Racing, I'm going to call it a motocross or a enduro style helmet, which obviously you have to wear goggles with, or sunglasses. Has no visor though. We've got a cheaper LS2 Adventure helmet. Now that's got the fold down tinted lens. You can see the tinted lens in there. That's the cheaper end of the market. And then you got the old trusty Arai XD4. Now this one I like because it's got the removable visor. So I can put that visor on and off. So this is an expensive adventure helmet. I bought this one second hand. I got no idea what they're worth new, but the guy wore it and it didn't fit his head. So yeah, I picked it up at a pretty good price. But these come with interchangeable sides here, so you can have it no visor or with the visor. And the reason I've got the visor off is from the long weekend trip where I rode straight home from the border. Basically, it's about sort of 5-6 hours all the way home in one big hit, and so I took the visor off, chucked it in my backpack. It's great for that, reduces the wind noise considerably. Now let's go through them again. So motocross helmets, all good, no problems at all. It's a bit like boots, and I probably should have mentioned it with boots. Spend the money, buy the best boots you can afford. Same goes with helmets. Spend the money, buy the best helmet you can afford. Now understand, if you're new to adventure riding, you may be not sure that you're going to be doing it for a long time. You might end up buying a cheaper one or just a cheaper MX helmet and getting away with that. But in the long term, you always should buy the best helmet you can afford. Now there will get a point where you're paying for brand, you're not paying for quality. That's for you to figure out. But certainly you get into some of the bigger brands like the Klims, for example, then you're starting to pay for the brand and not necessarily a better helmet, so to speak. But a Fly Racing with a set of goggles on, there's a little caveat there. The problem with that is your lack of sideways vision. When you're out in the road, you're always looking for cars coming from the side or people trying to pass you when they shouldn't. There is very limited visibility, so I don't wear goggles on the road at all. I don't like them at all. There's not enough visibility. If I was going to wear that helmet, I just wear sunglasses in behind there. That'd be fine then. The visibility is much better. Obviously, you've got the cheaper end of the adventure helmet, adventure bike helmet market, and the LS2. They're a good quality helmet. I used that one for about 1.5 years. This one popped up secondhand. I went, oh yeah, I'm going to go for the Arai XD4 and in my size, because the problem is I have a big melon, so I need a very big helmet. A perfectly good helmet. Makes a fair bit more noise than the Arai XD4. And of course the XD4 is, as I say, it's got a removable visor. So that really appealed to me. So anyway, guys, so yeah, same as boots, just buy the best you can afford, but you might accept a compromise at the start as you go along. And if you're like me, I started with the cheap one and then I thought, oh no, I'm really enjoying this, going to keep going. I went and bought the dearer helmet. So there you go. But certainly in Australia, we have Australian standards. Make sure they're Australian standard certified. If you're buying them from a local bike shop, they'll all be Australian standard certified. There'll be no problems there. But obviously in Europe, you have this, I think it's the CE standards and that sort of stuff. So yeah, make sure you get a helmet that's approved and don't get a one that's not suitable. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Sorry if I'm moving the videos quickly. I'm just trying to get to the point. fairly quickly and not have too much waffle. But yeah, we've got the bike ready now. We've prepped the bike. We looked at how we're going to load it luggage wise and what camping gear we're taking and what riding gear we're going to wear. So we're pretty well right to go now. I'm looking forward to it myself. The next video is obviously going to be about going out on a 350, filling it full of fuel and disappearing up into the hills. So yeah, real excited about that. So yeah. But anyway guys, that's enough waffle from me. Thanks for watching. We look forward to seeing you out on the trail soon.